Hi, I'm Hugh McTavish, running for governor of Minnesota with Jesse Ventura's former party, the Independence Alliance. The news media, the powers that be, they seem to have figured out that I am a threat. I didn't think that would happen. I thought that they'd be too dumb to figure that out, but apparently they are not. We're getting censored right and left and blocked right and left. Now, I started 2 years ago or so, and a little more than 2 years ago now, when lockdown started, I started a nonprofit called COVID Sanity to try to spread the news about the harms of the lockdowns. And I wrote a book, COVID Lockdown Insanity. So we tried to run a bunch of ads, and they were pretty much all blocked by YouTube and Facebook and the Star Tribune and EIN Presswire, the press release distribution service. We ran an ad. Maybe we can show the image here of a that just showed the time of life lost from the depression caused by the lockdowns. And this is from Journal of the American Medical Association statistics, that the lockdowns caused the depression to increase, to go from 8.5% to over 27%. So they threw 1 in 5 Americans into clinical depression. If COVID prevented if the lockdown, prevented 200,000 COVID deaths, which they did not incidentally, but if they had, we threw 316, I believe is the number of people into clinical depression for every one person whose COVID death was prevented. And since the average person in depression is depressed for 4 months, or actually 5 months, I think, it works out to over 30 times. And if you consider time spent depressed to be lost time of life, that works out to over 30 times the time of life lost from the time spent depressed that we caused versus the time of life saved from COVID deaths we prevented. 30 times. So we had a graph of that. Powerful image, I think. Facebook blocked it, YouTube blocked it, EIN Presswire. We tried to place an ad. We just tried to place ads showing this. They wouldn't accept our money to run these ads. We tried to place an ad with that image with the Star Tribune. The Star Tribune refused to run that ad. So certainly the powers that be do not want you to know about the harms of the lockdowns, and they do not want you to say that the lockdowns were a mistake. We ran into this also with EIN Presswire. We tried to run I put out a press release calculating from British government numbers and South African government numbers and numbers in the Journal of the American Medical Association that people infected with the Omicron strain were 4 times less likely to be hospitalized than people infected with earlier strains. And once hospitalized, they were 9 times less likely to die, which makes the Omicron strain 36-fold less deadly than the original strains of COVID. The news media sure did not want you to know that. They did not want you to know that Omicron is about as deadly as the common cold. So they refused to run a press release that merely said that fact. YouTube blocked a video that said that fact. So I thought, okay, maybe this is just COVID. Maybe, but anyway, now they're blocking everything our campaign puts out. Now, I'm running on this platform of jury democracy to actually return the power of government to the people. It is a huge, huge deal. This would be, honestly, the most consequential change in government in United States history. This would mean actually returning the power of government to the people. In effect, we would be saying that we don't really need politicians to govern us. We can basically govern ourselves. Huge, huge consequences. This would be returning the power, the 99% of the power of government to the bottom 99% of the income bracket, which would be the first time in history that any society ever did that. So this is very big stuff. It is a threat to the status quo. I was hoping they'd be too stupid to figure that out, but apparently they're not too stupid to figure that out. The text, we sent out some mass texts. The text distributions then, after a text talking about jury democracy, they simply blocked it. We can't send out any texts at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a text says, if you have an emergency, call 911. They wouldn't have let us send that out. So I had to hire another service to send out text for us. So far, they've been able to send out text. We'll see how that goes. I put out a press release. A couple of days ago, a week ago, whatever, saying that that Governor Walz essentially caused the crime increase. Now, to be fair, the headline was a little harsh. The headline said, Tim Walz deliberately increased crime, parentheses, or he's incompetent. Take your pick, close parentheses. Now, the body and the logic of the press release was he closed schools, that most crime is committed by teenagers and 20-somethings, by young people. Governor Walz closed the schools and effectively told teenagers, spend more time with your gangs and less with teachers. When you do that, you're going to get an increase in crime. For the 20-somethings, he disproportionately threw them out of their jobs, since they're disproportionately employed in restaurants and other industries that we closed, and he threw them out of their colleges because we closed the colleges. So he effectively told them, try to figure out a way to make money without a job or an education. When you do that, you're going to get an increase in crime. So this was very, very predictable. He either deliberately increased crime with the hope that that would result in enough savings in COVID deaths to be worth it, or he didn't know that closing schools would result in an increase in crime. He didn't know that throwing 20-somethings out of their jobs would result in an increase in crime, which would make him incompetent. So I think it's a fair statement. He's either incompetent or he did it deliberately. The press release distribution service refuses to say that. I think it's on the legal principle that you're not allowed to criticize elected Democrats, or at least you're not allowed to criticize them in any way that might be effective. Yesterday, I sent out a press release that the headline was, McTavish proposes most consequential change in government in U.S. history. Meanwhile, Walz and Jensen debate who dislikes high gas prices more. So again, they didn't like that. Maybe that would be effective. So they said you can't. They refused to distribute that. Said you can't say mean things about Governor Walz. It's not mean. It's not a personal attack. It's an attack on his record. Anyway, so we are being censored, right and left. Facebook. Another funny story about Facebook. So we want to run ads on Facebook. In order to run political ads on Facebook, you got to verify your identity. So fine. So we submitted a crystal clear photograph of my driver's license, front and back side of the driver's license. They said somehow that they didn't recognize that. It was absolutely crystal clear. So option 2 was to go and get my signature notarized. And my identity notarized. So we did that, went to the bank, got my identity notarized, and one of the lines on that, so they filled it all out, and then we sent that in and then Facebook said, nope, this isn't good enough because it's not fully filled in. The reason it wasn't fully filled in is there was a line there that said notary number. Minnesota doesn't use notary numbers. So it said notary number, parentheses, if applicable. Minnesota doesn't use them, so we left that blank. Facebook said, therefore, you didn't fill out the form, so we're not going to accept that. So I said, okay, we'll fill out NA, not applicable, on that line about the notary number. We submitted it that way, and then Facebook said, you've modified the form. You can't do that, so we won't accept this. So anyway, now I don't know whether that's just incompetence or the technical hoops we have to live with these days. Or it's censorship. I'm kind of suspicious that it's censorship, that they just don't want to let us run ads. But either way, Facebook, again, evil giant. We should do something about that. So Hugh McTavish for governor. I oppose censorship. I'm getting a little tired of being censored. For some reason, the powers that be don't want you to know about my race and about what I stand for. That may tell you something that maybe you want to know about it.